We're going to be building a sawmill shed. Now, the principles that we apply in this can be used for building anything. Any kind of shed or any kind of structure, really. Begins with a plan. Here, we've spent several hours deciding on how tall we want this thing, how wide, and how long. Watched several videos. Talked to some people. This is the conclusion we come up with. So now we're going to get up materials. These poplar trees, they was leaning the wrong way, or they were in the way, or if they came down, they were going to land on the shop or on the shed. So we needed to take them down. Plus, I needed some materials for the shed. Out of the poplars, we're making rafters. These are going to be full nominal dimension 2x6 rafters. They're a little bit heavy right now, you know, they've got about 50% moisture in them. But we're going to dry them out, and they did dry down to about 15% or so, 15, 17, somewhere around that, about half their weight. Still pretty good weight, but a lot easier when the kid got ready to install them. Here I brought them inside and have a wood stove going. Obviously this is in the winter time, and the fan. We dried them out a bit. Now we need some materials for our post. Fortunately, we had some dead cedars around. We was able to bring those in and mill those up to the sizes that we needed getting ready. So now we've got our post, we've got our rafters, we've got our header and beam material already milled up. We've got the materials that we're going to be using to build a truss with. I'll show you here in a minute. So we've simulated or accumulated or put together whatever all the materials we're going to need for our shed. You say, well, you're working a whole lot and you hadn't done anything yet. Well, okay, maybe so, but yeah, we are doing some stuff. And in fact, I think you're doing the most important part right now, is that is in your planning stages and in your preparation stages. We're planning and preparing our materials. We're going to plan and prepare the site, get it as right as we can. Before we ever stick a spade in the ground, we're going to try to have everything as ready as we can, so when we do start building, we're ready to rock and roll. This truss, we know, according to our plan, how wide the span is going to be. So these trusses are being built 20 feet, 9 inches wide. I think they're 16 inches tall and made out of 2x4s. The design is, well, you can probably find an engineer if you need somebody, if you're planning on building trusses. So here we're going to get the site prep ready, and you can see that the slope, there's a pretty good slope over here where I'm planning to set the shed. So I need a little dirt, and fortunately I could harvest some soil off of one side of the yard and bring over to the other side. And when you're backfilling, it's always a good idea to not try to backfill too deep at one time, because if you do, the soil that you're pressing down on top might get tight, but the soil underneath it won't. So, 2 or 3 inches a layer, and then run over it and pack it down. You're going to be much more happy with your sub base. You know what I'm saying? So we get this soil in here, and fortunately it's not rained yet, so we're going to get some gravel on it. But the orientation of your structure needs to be strongly considered. So many people have built things and they turn around and look and say, man, that's crooked. Well, I wanted it not only perpendicular to the shop, but I wanted space where I could drive up on the lower side of the shed if I ever need to do that. And so all of that was taken into consideration. Our sub base for the yard has been screenings, which is fine, but when it gets wet, it gets a little bit soupy, so we're going to put down a load of 57. I think we had 14 tons on that truck. That's my brother-in-law's truck. Neil, thank him for driving for us and getting that delivered, and we'll get everything right. So there where the cones are, that's a basic footprint of where I'm going to set this shed. The site's been prepped, the gravel's been poured. We're about ready to start laying this thing off. Now it's about time to do some building. Now you don't have to use batter boards in your project, but for my money, well worth it. You see, with these batter boards, I can not only get a good flat plane to measure off of to know exactly how high everything's going to be, but also I can make things as square as humanly possible. So off of these batter boards, I'll put screws and strings and line and measure off, and from 12 feet to 12 feet on the outside width, 30 feet to 30 feet on the length. I can mark where my holes are going to be for my poles. You see those round circles? That's where I'm going to drill, and they're exactly where I want the hole. I've seen people drill holes and then they say, well, that's in the wrong place. Well, why is that? I think it's because maybe somebody didn't do the right due diligence when it comes to planning. That could be. So to check for square, I know most of you already know this, but I'll go ahead and say it anyway. We can measure perpendicular, or if you get out your calculator and you know how to do that Pythagorean theory and all that stuff, I'll just old school measure it from one corner to the other, and if I get the same, then I know that I've got my strings square. Now, obviously this is a little bit easier if you got a helping hand, but it's doable if you by yourself. Here we're showing 386.5 both ways. I know that the footprint is square. This is important, because if I can get this square, and if I can set those posts plumb, then when I put my rafters on and the purlins and start setting the 10's going down on a square structure. And if you do that, well, there again, have I said the word easier yet? Just going to make your life easier. And that's what I'm all about. You see, there's the round circles where I'll be drilling the holes. I threw this clip in here because this was standard practice on all of these posts. Now you can anchor your post a lot of different ways. You can certainly use it like a sonotube and pour concrete down the ground, get you some brackets and bolt your post, however you want to do it. But because I've done the site prep, I know that the water that comes off the roof is not going to be going back into the feet of these posts. The feet of these posts are going to stay dry. So it's not going to hurt that they're down in the ground with concrete around them. They're going to be there as long as the shed's there, which is probably going to be a pretty good while. Now some people make messes when they drill holes or dig holes but I'm trying to keep this thing clean, because you see the fellers walked around in dirt for enough years, and I'd rather walk without mud on the bottom of my shoes if I can. I put a big rock down in the bottom of each of the hole, and that's going to serve as the foundation, if you will, for the post. Now one fella can set posts by himself. It makes it easier if you put a 1 before or 2 before on each side. Set your foot up straight exactly where you want it, and it might get a little bit boring, but the fella's going to use a level a whole lot, especially on these corner posts, because you see, we're trying to transfer our squareness of the lines to the top of our post. And that way, when we set the rafters and put the purlins on and put the 10 on, everything's going to be as square as we can get it. Don't shortcut yourself at this point. Don't go with good enough, okay? I'm not your boss, but if I was your boss and you was working for me, we'd be trying to get these posts plumb, guys. I mean, we want them as plumb as we can get them. And how do I know how high to cut the post off? Well, remember that string we got down there on the batter boards? I can pull off of that string and know exactly where to cut these posts. We're not guessing. We don't have to put a laser or a receiver or anything up at the top. Everything comes off of that,
Bam!
built off of that string, which, by the way, was figured long ago when we did the first plan. Remember the phone? Now these beams here on the back, they're a little bit oversized. They were 2x8s. We could have used 2x6s just with a 10-foot span, but it's all right. We had them on the yard. This is a little bit different of a way of doing a beam. I could have milled some solid material, but I had this material, so why not use it? I tell you, when the fella gets at this point and he starts getting these beams finished up, you're starting to see light at the end of the tunnel, which is a good thing. Now, I could have set this truss by hand, not that heavy, but if you got the equipment, hey, why not use it, right? I won't bore you with putting these braces on here. They're cut on 45s, and I don't remember exactly how long they were. I think about, they might have been 4 feet long. So we're ready for some rafters. Pull these things out of hibernation and let's get going here. They've been cut and drying long enough. Now, before I put the top plate on, I laid it off 2 foot on centers. That way, when I do lay this rafter up here, I know go ahead and screw her in place because it's going to be right. And it won't take long. We'll get these rafters set up and it's going to be time to put some purlins in. Again, planning can't be stressed enough. Now this truss was built with a camber, and I thought maybe it might come down a little bit, but it hadn't moved. Not with its own weight, not with the weight of the rafters, not with the weight of the tin, and several weeks later, it's still there. I didn't show the interior braces, but we got those on as well. Now when you put your purlins on, because I know the rafters are on 2 foot center, I can mark those purlins. And they can be used, that mark that I put on there, to help straighten up the rafters. So now once the purlins are all on, the rafters will be straight, the purlins will be straight, and hey, you know, the fella's ready for some tin here in just a short while. We use 2x6s for our purlins. You certainly could use, 1x6s, I'm sorry. You certainly could use 1x4s, but you know, if you're like I am, sort of long in the tooth, that extra width makes it just a little bit safer and more secure in doing this work. You'll probably notice here also that I'll grade each purlin, putting the side that I want up, checking for knots, making sure that what I'm putting down is going to be safe to walk on. I've screwed everything down. I certainly could have used a nail gun. I've got one of them battery operated nail guns, but for me it was just easier. And here again, it's what I'm always looking for, is the easier way. Just easier for me to put screws in my pouch and the screw gun, and screwed her down. Weather's always a factor, and so that needs to be in your planning consideration. We got a nice little snowstorm here, but you know, kids ready for 10. Won't be long. There won't be any snow getting on the shed. This has been a good company to deal with. I've traded with them for over 25 years. They've always been very nice, and placing your order, and then about 5 or 6 days your order's ready and ready for pickup. Good people. I like to work with good people, don't you? Now, the best of my recollection, they have 2 gauges of metal that they sell. This is called AG panel. It coverage is 36 inches wide. They have a 29 gauge and a 26 gauge. I usually, if I can, like to go with the 26 gauge. It's a little bit heavier. It's a little stiffer. It's a little better to work with if you got a windy environment. And also, well, I just like to work with it myself. Cost a little bit more. I think the metal on this roof is a little bit north of $650. But you're covering what, 15 by 32. So if it was 10 by 30, that'd be 300. So about 360 something square feet. So that's not bad. You may have noticed at the bottom of this tin there's a mason line. All this tin was set to that line. If you do that, your tin won't scissor up like it does, and if you build in square, it won't scissor up. You can, it's just, again, I use the word easier, just easier on you. Boy, that's an exciting piece. The last piece is on, and you know what? We're in the dry. Let's put a little decoration on it. Now, I could have used any kind of siding. Thought about board and batten, but I never had to use this lap siding attachment on the saw. So we had an ash log or two that we milled up into some lap siding, and I think it worked out really nice. The saw did a good job milling that lap siding. If you have a Woodland Mills and you want to use that attachment, hey, for me it was worth it. I like the way it finished out. So in just a few short minutes, well, maybe a couple of hours or more, I don't remember, we got this puppy dressed up a little bit. For me, I wanted and needed electricity over at the shop for two reasons, primarily lights, and I wanted to put a winch in. These were not afterthoughts. This was all in the planning stages long before we ever moved any dirt. You see, I'm of the opinion, the more planning you do, the more preparation you do, your whole project, two things, gonna be easier, you're gonna be happier with it. Going back and doing stuff over again, gonna cost you time, gonna cost you money. Now that box I'm putting in, yeah, it's not waterproof, but I built a waterproof, watertight box over it. It does not get wet. It's good to go. Bam. I don't ever have to climb up on this thing and put that cover over the saw head again. That one thing has made it worth it. I appreciate you joining me on this journey. I don't share you these pictures, and I don't share this video with you to be out of pride. I share it with you out of gratitude. I'm thankful that this was provided for me, and I'm thankful that I get to share it with you. Because if in any way I've been able to help you with something I've said or shown you, then this has been worthwhile. And it's been worthwhile not to have to climb up on that thing and cover that saw head again. Hey, thanks for joining me. And if you will, maybe consider subscribing. I appreciate the support. That's Sawdust and Sweat NC. And I'll see you in the next one.